7:06 now, News Talk 1310, KFKA. I'm Chad Peterson, NoCo Morning News. Glad you're along this morning. Yeah, you're here at a ridiculously good time because we're welcoming to the show Brian Watson, the founder and CEO of North Star Commercial Partners' new book called The Seven Rings, a journey to a balanced life of peace, passion, and purpose. Brian, thank you so much for making time this morning to talk with us. How are you?
Thanks for having me on your show. I'm doing well.
This is great. You're a ridiculously busy man. We've been friends on Facebook, and so I've kind of see the life that you're living. You are a world traveler dealing with businesses and holdings and all over the world. So my first question, you have this new book called The Seven Rings. How did you make time to write this? Did you squeeze in a page here and there on a flight, in a hotel room? Did you make a moment? Were you really disciplined to make this book happen?
Well, you know what? I've always come from the mindset that if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, I guess. But, yes, you're absolutely right. When the family was sleeping in the morning or they went to bed a little early at night, I would go in and write this book. And it took me about 6 months to write it and then go through the editing process, another 6 months. But it was a lot of fun going through the process.
I love the book. We have on 1310kfka.com, easy to find the link to the Amazon page. I figured that was the quickest and easiest way to get people people are going to be interested and motivated to get this book during our conversation. So go to 1310kfka.com, go to the Amazon.com link. We've got it right there in the story that we've got about you. First question I have for you, you shared some stuff in this book that I was a little surprised by. How did you get the courage to write openly about some of the difficulties, some of the rough patches that you've been through?
You bet. Well, I come from humble means. I grew up on the Western Slope, and I think that oftentimes in life, people may see someone and say, okay, well, they're successful. They've always had an easy road. It's been unicorns and rainbows for them. And I just wanted to share the story that, you know what, we've all been through some tough times. And, I said, you know what, show the underbelly and use that as an encouragement for people. Not for empathy, but just to say, you know what, I've been through it too, and to encourage people that as we go through those struggles, we can learn a lot and we can become more empathetic and also in serving others. So it's been a fun process.
It's a human tendency perhaps to look at other people and go, oh, their life is perfect, and yet, maybe not so much. Brian Watson.
Absolutely. We all have issues.
Isn't that funny? Brian Watson, it's so human because I find myself doing that. Oh, look at their life. That's, compare and despair. That's a catchphrase that I learned a while back and use. Brian Watson, the founder and CEO of North Star Commercial Partners. There's one part about the book that I'm curious, and there may be a story to this. How you developed the what I described here as the moment to pause and reflect and interact with the book. At the end of each chapter, you've got some questions and kind of an interactive moment and the quotations that we can ponder. How did you? I think that's a brilliant piece of your work here is that at the end of each chapter we have a moment to interact with it. Is there a story behind how you decided to do that?
Well, I really did it just because I wanted to have a book about encouragement, and we all get so busy in life that we, run through a chapter. Like a lot of times when I'm reading a book, it's like, okay, I'm just going to read one more chapter before I fall asleep. I thought, you know what, why not put something at the end that makes people think about it and say, okay, what does that mean to my life? I mean, do I like the positioning of Brian's 7 rings? Do I have different rings? My faith may be different from Brian's. My worldview may be different from Brian's. And to let them think about it on their own terms and to kind of right through that. And my goal, I wrote the book, 100% of the proceeds are being donated away through my foundation. I didn't write this book to make money. I did it to bless one life. And my thought is that if one person can read this book and maybe think about something and maybe help develop themselves in some way, then it's all worth it. Every dime I spent on it, every hour that I spent putting the words on the page.
Somewhere near the end, the line was that your only personal profit from this is the satisfaction that you help some people, and so that's great. You've got the Brian Watson Foundation, and there's a great story as to how and why you came up with that. But again, Amazon.com, we've got our link there. All of the profits are the dollars are going to go to. Let's talk about where the dollars are going to go and what they're going to do.
Well, I'm one of those people, I just want to be a generous giver. And so I'm always looking for donation opportunities, and there may be somebody on the radio this morning who is listening who has some type of a nonprofit that's impacting a life in some special way. So most of our giving is U.S.-based, and we're looking for programs that have a sustainable, positive impact in one's life. And, hopefully with low overhead, where more money is going to the best use that it can. And so we're always open. And so our foundation, you can go to my website, brianwatson.us. There's a link to my foundation there, and people can even submit requests or ideas there.
North Star Commercial Partners founder and CEO Brian Watson is with us. We're talking about the 7 rings. We haven't talked about the 7 rings yet. The dumb question is: Did you start with the ideas and kind of put them in order and finish at 7, or did you think there were why 7? I guess that's the dumb question. Well, let me throw that out there.
Well, 7's a lucky number, I guess, but and it was a number that I used to have in sports and everything. But, for me, I just developed these 7 rings over the years. This is not something that I said, I want to write a book. Let's come up with 7 rings and kind of put them into priority. These are 7 rings that I've developed over trials and tribulations and highs and lows over many, many years of my life. And I'm a big believer of learning from other people. And so in spending time with them, it kind of helped to coalesce my prioritization of these 7 rings. And, everybody may have a different order of these rings, but I think it's a good idea to kind of have some structure with your life. A long time ago, I decided to start being more proactive versus reactive. And we all get busy and things happen to us that we have to respond to. But the more that you can be an architect of your life and say, okay, here's where I am, here's where I want to go, how do I get there, and give some thought behind that, I think it's a more positive approach.
Brian Watson is with us. We're talking about the 7 rings. You've mentioned it again, the order of the rings. I'm a little surprised by that. This is not your typical self-help, how to be successful book in that you've done such a great job. The feel of the book is that it's the people that we are and not what we do and what we accomplish and what we it's who we are and how we are as individuals in the larger community, in our families, that's really important. And that's the definition of success. So the ordering of the rings is a little different than people might think. Let's jump into the first one. The first of the 7 rings, Brian Watson, divine desire. We're going to start with our relationship with God. That seems a great place to start.
Yeah. Well, you're going back to you talking about people. I care about people's heart and their character, and not these trappings of success as the world may define it. And one of the reasons I wrote the book is I'd read a lot of books about, get rich in real estate or business in 27 minutes, or, these books from these theologians who not necessarily had been entrepreneurs, had not come from means where they had to work and build things up and had some, scars on them, well-intended. But I wanted to create a book that just from a common person to say, here's some things that I've learned. So at the center of my life is a relationship with God. People can define that as different things. Some people put maybe exercise in the center of their life or other substances or things. But I personally decided, I want a firm foundation on something that I can depend on. And that then gives me a foundation to which to build the other 7 rings. In looking at me, a lot of people would think that business is the first or second priority in my life. It's actually the 7th ring. Because it helps to fund the internal rings. But at the center of my life is a relationship with the Creator. And then the 2nd ring is a relationship with my wife. A lot of people put their kids in the center of their marriage, and after 20 years of being married, they don't know or like each other anymore because they've been just focusing on the kids. That's been the whole purpose of the marriage. And so my kids are in the 3rd ring. They're a welcome addition to the relationship, and they're very, very important to me. But a relationship with my Creator and then a relationship with my wife give my kids more stability and understanding in the home life at the end of the day, at least from my perspective.
Brian Watson is with us. We're just getting into the 7 rings. This is the new book, Journey to a Balanced Life of Peace, Passion, and Purpose. You gave away the secret. The last of the rings is making a living, and I thought that was brilliant, but not what people would expect. Let's take a quick break here. We've got a few more rings to get. There's a couple of other salient questions, including the what I would have thought you'd describe as a horrible moment in your life, you describe as being a really brilliant part of your life when you ran for office. And so we'll flesh that out in a second. We'll go to sports, come back with traffic. We're continuing with Brian Watson, the 7 Rings after this. NoCo Morning News on 1310 KFKA. Now 721, News Talk 1310 KFKA. NoCo Morning News. We are visiting with Brian Watson, founder and CEO of North Star Commercial Partners, author of The 7 Rings. Ring number 2, as we come back, thank you again for joining us, Brian. Patricia is the name of the song. I don't know if you noticed that, but ties right into the second ring. Joined at the heart. Brian Watson, The 7 Rings. Let's go from divine desire as the first ring, joined at the heart number 2. That's your relationship with your wife.
It is, and it comes second right behind a relationship with my Creator, and I'm blessed to be married to a wonderful woman for almost 20 years now, and we have 3 children.
The 7 Rings. Brian Watson is with us. 3 of 7. Love is thicker than blood. There's some. I love the way you worked your way through this, because we have, the phrase "blood is thicker than water" and love is thicker than blood. Let's talk about the third of 7 rings.
Well, that's a relationship with my children, but it also is my extended family as well, and starting to get into things around the community. But it's mainly this idea that these are a priority. I mean, these are the top 3 rings at the end of the day. And the children, again, I'm not everybody has children. If you're blessed to have children, they are truly a gift. And it's not always easy raising children. And as I say throughout the whole book, I don't have all the answers. I'm still learning myself. I'm just giving some encouragement of some things that I've learned and coming alongside people in that journey together.
As an aside here, as we're talking with Brian Watson about The 7 Rings, Amazon, you're getting unbelievably good reviews for the book on Amazon.com. Love that. And I love your take on being, as you said, sort of laying out the case of being more an architect as opposed to a reaction-based, an architect of your own life. The 7 Rings, divine desire, joined at the heart, your wife, your children, and extended family there. Love is thicker than blood. Number 4, community centered. This is where we really get into the meat of how your life is ordered.
Yes, and as I said in my book, I grew up in a family that was just very involved in the community. And depending on how you define your community, is it your neighbors right next door? Is it just your local area of town? Is it your state? What is your community? And really trying to figure that out. And one of my goals in life is try to expand my definition of community. I want it to be something where it includes people that look and act different and even think different than me. And this idea of trying to be a servant leader and loving people and trying to meet them where they are and break down barriers and build bridges together. I think that's one of the greatest things that we can do. We all just get so busy, and sadly, in our society today, there are people who are profiting from separating people by economic status, by race, by sex, by all these political affiliation, and frankly, it breaks my heart because that's not the America that we should be. We should be a diverse country, a melting pot of people coming together, and I think we all need to be the change we wish to see in this world, and I think it starts with one conversation and one relationship and helping to define and to grow your community.
As we ran through the 4th of 7 rings here with Brian Watson, your particular take on social media and our whiz-bang, got to have it 10 seconds ago, lack of attention to each other and is really spot on. That's not the heart of the book, but I thought some of your notations about that in talking about the 4th ring being community-centered were spot on. I think social media is really a dangerous place for us. Number 5, the 5th ring with Brian Watson here, the 7 rings, For Love of Country. Brilliant chapter there, brilliant takedown on as you mentioned a little bit there. We have the most amazing place in the whole world, and it's lost on a lot of us much of the time, it seems, doesn't it?
Yes, and I've got an opportunity to travel a good part of the world, and every time I travel and come home, I try to explain to people that we have won the historical lottery of all time to live when and how and where we do in the United States of America. We are not perfect. but the vast majority of us live better than kings and queens of antiquity. And it's hard to believe that, but go into a grocery store and look at all the choice before you. Look at our length of living now compared to the years, et cetera. And so it's not perfect. There are people that have challenges, but overall we are so fortunate and so blessed to live in this country. And I think we have a social responsibility to make sure that we continue to build upon this constitutional republic that we've been given.
The sixth of seven rings, your place in the world. This is where we get to, as individuals, figure out how we can best serve others, serve the community. And is it in this chapter where we learn that when you ran for office on the day of the election, there was the plane flying around saying, "Brian Watson, pay your taxes," and what would seem to be the worst moment turned out to be a really brilliant moment for you. Your place in the world. You've always been served. You've been called to serve and perhaps run for a higher office. And I have an inkling you might again in the near future here. But ring number 6, your place in the world. Let's talk about that.
Well, the idea with this is that each of us has something to contribute. You can give of your time, your talent, or your treasure. And it doesn't have to be huge, big gifts. Your gift this particular day may be a word of encouragement to somebody. It may be being polite in traffic and letting someone, cut in front of you, even though they don't deserve to. But it's this idea of trying to figure out what can you contribute on this stage. Going back to your comment about running for office, I did run for office a number of years ago. And, it's sadly, running for office has become a full contact blood sport in America. And, the opposition will make up lies about people and do whatever they can for this thing to control power. And, I just wanted to serve. And we went through the process, and I loved every minute of it, meeting people, knocking on doors, et cetera. And sadly, the opposition decided to make up some things, and they banged that drum. And it was a very negative experience from some respects. But I loved it. I loved every minute of it, of meeting people and reaching out, and who knows what that will look like in the future as we continue to serve.
Well, it seems like you have your life in order, and it allows you to take what would seem like an awful setback in that moment and turn it into something good, which you did. The gift of work is the last of the 7 rings, and that's so most of the books in this genre are all about go earn a bunch of money, buy a big house, have a great life, and that's part of the process here, a journey to a balanced life of peace, passion, and purpose. We'll get there in our own way, in our own time, but the gift of work is the last of the 7 rings, and that's the one that I thought was most extraordinary. Share that with us. Share your thinking on that.
Well, Chad, I don't know about you, but one of my goals in life is not to retire. I think we were created to create, and whether that means showing up at work every day or helping in nonprofits or serving the community, I want to be involved. I want to be on the field. And I really believe that work is a blessing. It is a gift. I grew up on the western slope of Colorado, and I was in construction, and I raised animals and shoveled more horse stalls and pig pens and everything else than I can state. And, there's something about that's gratifying about the human being being able to work and to create value and to create change. And not everybody loves their job. And some days are harder than others. But in general, the ability to go out and earn a living and to provide for your family and to create opportunity for yourself, I think is one of the greatest gifts around. And so I do look at it as a gift. For me, I've been given a platform of having a company where I get to employ a lot of people, and we own real estate around the country. But work for me is about blessing others and to figure out how I can use the platform of commercial real estate to make a positive change in the world.
The business incubator, all the things we've talked about on the radio before and that sadly we don't have a time to visit about here. I would say that the book is worth buying just for the Common Threads chapter. 50 favorite bits of wisdom: eat more salads than sandwiches. That fits
my wife made me put that one in there.
I love it. Tell Patricia hi, and we loved that one in particular. Fits my life. Your list of heroes and the descriptions of your current list of heroes was an inspiration for me. I really appreciate that. I like that the book was not about abundance. My little note to myself here was something far greater than that. It's not about what, but who you are, who we are together as individuals and communities and the country and the world, for that matter. Some money is going to be made by this book, but it's not going in your pocket. Let's one more time talk about where the dollars are going, and if Amazon.com is a great place to order it, let's send people that way. Again, talk about what money is being raised and where it's going these days.
Absolutely. 100% of the money, the net sales proceeds are going away, be given to charities. At the end of the day, I didn't write it to make money. You can learn more at brianwatson.us or at the7rings.com, or as you said, you can go to Amazon. Also encourage people, we started a new TV show talking about the gift of work called Mountains of Opportunity, and it's on all the major TV channels, Headline News, Fox, CNN, etc. It's on the Comcast network, and I'm going throughout Colorado and interviewing entrepreneurs, whether they have one employee, tens or hundreds or thousands. People are making a positive difference for our communities in Colorado and creating jobs and opportunities. So if anybody's listening and has such a company that they think that we should do a TV show on, it's no cost to them. I underwrite it, and we're just getting a positive news out there of people taking and making a difference in the world. So you can learn more about mountainsofopportunity.com or at the opportunitycoalition.com website.
Brian Watson, ridiculously successful businessman, but that's the current version of it. Success is not permanent, and failure is not fatal. Is that? It's pretty close to one of the quotes.
That is actually the quote, and I keep that inside of my binder every day. I found that quote when I was in high school, that success is not final and failure is not fatal, and I just really believe that. You know, we're all going to have challenges, and it's okay. And in fact, I would embrace those and learn from them, and I think it's going to make you more empathetic and a better person at the end of the day to go through them, regardless of the result.
It allows me to say one more time, courageous run through the best and worst of your life leading up to the 7 Rings here, the book that you've put out here. Brian Watson, brilliant moment with you. We kept you 2 minutes longer than we said we would. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I appreciate it.
Chad, always appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yep, good news to visit with. Brian Watson, North Star Commercial Partners, founder, CEO, author of The 7 Rings, and go to brianwatson.us. You can go to 1310kfka.com. Those links are all right there on our show page. What a great moment there. Again, a courageous book, and maybe not the standard "here's how to be successful in life" book, but a brilliant take on it. All the more so because it doesn't run through the usual lines of the genre. All right, 7:33. A minute late here, we'll jump into the 1310 KFKA News and Weather Center.